computer. Okay, well, thanks for hopping on the Code Review Weekly Workshop. And maybe we'll talk about some things regarding code review, and maybe we'll pair on a code review. I don't think I really have anything to talk about regarding code review. I have been unavailable for code reviews because I've been working on other things. What about you, James? Have you run into any interesting code review things?
I haven't done a lot of code reviews recently, but as you know, I just signed up to be a trainee maintainer. So I thought I better start joining these workshops.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I have done I have been pinged on a couple of code reviews that were more or less interesting that maybe we could I could present as just, hey, here's how I approached reviewing it, and here's some things that came from it. But before we do that, do you have any code reviews that maybe you'd like to do together during this time?
I don't have any assigned at the moment. I only had
Okay.
one today.
All right. Cool.
There's only a little one.
Yeah, that's no problem. All right. Let's let me find a code review that I've somewhat recently done. Is this the one? Let me see if this is the one. Here we go. Yes. This is probably worth mentioning. Let's do it. Okay. All right. I'll share my screen. Let me close some things out. So last night, my brother and I we hung out over Zoom / Discord, and he's also a programmer, so we were having fun talking about programming. But then we hadn't like played any games together in a long time. It's like, oh, we gotta play something. And I've been playing like Doom 1 a lot by myself.
Really?
Oh yeah, like so it's like something's loading. I start up Doom 1 on Nightmare and I try to go through it. So I'm like not great at it, but it's like, okay, I've gotten better at it over the time. But I've always known like, hey, there's certain mods that let you do this multiplayer and stuff. So so that's what we did. We set up the mods for Doom 1 to play multiplayer where we could co-op together and then do the old school death match. And man, it was so much fun. Yeah, I love the old school first person shooters.
That's
All
cool.
right. Here we go. I think I'm ready to go. All right. So here's a code review that even though I've been at capacity, I was available to review. And there's some interesting context here. One is all of this is behind a feature flag. And so in this space, when we're reviewing, it can seem like, well, it's behind a feature flag, so we don't need it to be perfect. We're still working on it. And that's true. Yet it's very, very easy to turn on a feature flag. And we want to make sure we've captured what we need to do before we turn it on. So when things are behind a feature flag, I'm very like comfortable with, oh, there's maybe a user facing issue that's unrelated, but we don't have to take care of it here. But let's create an issue such that it's known we need to resolve this before we turn the feature flag on. And so those kind of conversations come up in MRs like this. I may not block this MR particularly, just we need to bring to light all of the things that we're still working on. And yeah. So all of this is behind a feature flag, but then it also kind of depends on uh projects that have Kubernetes agents and stuff. And it's like, okay, this is some setup I'm not prepared to do as a code reviewer. So when that happens, sometimes I'm still trying, sometimes I'll test things locally. And if I can't get the happy path because I don't have some setup, then I'll either just rely on the author's environment and ask them questions, or I'll actually comment out of the code certain checks that let me keep going forward. So if it's trying to check that I have some setting that, or some integration that I don't have, I've done before. It doesn't happen often, but I'll just comment out of the code that lets me keep testing whatever UI part I'm trying to figure out.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So what I was wanting to share here was story about one little change regarding oh yeah. Let me see if I can find the old version of the diff. Yeah. So this had an interesting Apollo trait where we had previously one query where we could get project details for this remote development, and we are going to receive the group from the project, the repository from the project, but also cluster agents. But in this MR, we removed cluster agents and it's now in a separate query, which doesn't make any sense if you just look at just these files. But the issue is that we need to reference the root group's cluster agents, not just my immediate group. So I could be like 3 nested groups in, and as in my project, and I need to be able to reference the root group cluster agents. And there's no GraphQL field that's going to let us do it in just one query.
Right. What is a cluster agent? Is it important
That's
to
a
know
great
what that is
question.
here?
That's a fantastic question. And so me as a reviewer, to me, this kind of honestly just goes in a bucket of like, okay, this is a thing, and I don't really know about this at all. Somehow we need it. And yeah, so as a reviewer, to review random parts of the code, I'm not intimately familiar with all of it. It helps to put things in some abstract box of like, all right, I see how we're interfacing with this, but I don't really totally know all about it. Something to do with so now I actually do kind of know about it. It's something to do with the communication to Kubernetes instance so that we can spin up workspaces. That's my understanding of it. Well, so previously we had one query, now we have 2 queries. And what was previously happening was we had one Apollo smart query, and then another Apollo smart query. And so this was the intent, was when the first get project details query returned, we would see if it has a group. And if it doesn't, so if it doesn't, then we can emit our results right away. But if it does, we need to set the group path and re-query, which is going to then trigger reactively this smart query. And we set the group path by calculating what the root group would be. But then we set this smart query to run. And then once we get the cluster agents, then we can emit results. So what was previously a 1-step smart query is now kind of this 2-step smart query, which isn't super obvious if you just look at this line, the effect of that line and like the intent of how these two queries are meant to play together. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So this was the original implementation. What I wanted to share was some of the comments that, some of the comments that I left about it. So it started with a question of, I could see some scenarios now that something isn't just cohesive and something's broken up into some steps. You can run into some interesting situations, particularly like a race condition, especially if like, and during the race condition, while things are changing, one of them errors out, and then like the results could be from a previous request or something like that. Enrique, and so my main thoughts when I run into something like this is like, how did we feel about this, and have we thought about other alternatives or something we can do now, or is there a plan for it? Like that's kind of my main goal is like, okay, we're behind a feature flag, I see what we're trying to do, but like maybe there's something we can improve here. And so yeah, Enrique was concerned, and he even, it sounds like, while he was just talking about it, he caught a bug with it. Wasn't super concerned about race conditions, but yeah, obviously doing a single query would be the best path. And that's something I left in another comment was, this is a backend issue, but maybe instead of needing to do two queries, we need to address this from the backend and actually have a field that lets us pull from the root group's cluster agents. Like, oh, that'd be cool.
Mhm. Mhm.
So then we could just do it all in one query.
So what made you worry about the race condition there?
So I wasn't super worried about a specific, like to me, the race condition would be a huge edge case, but I was trying to identify what's the side effect of one asynchronous process now becoming two asynchronous processes. And um yeah, if one's pinging another one, like they can get out of sync. And I was thinking of a race condition and one of them failing and that creating some sort of scenario, but I knew that this is more like a code smell than an actual bug, because I don't think you'd be able to trigger this using just the UI. Um, but I'm not entirely sure. The conversation
Mhm.
continued though, because as I looked at it, I then identified, oh no, we actually have another legit bug with the two-step smart query, where if the user selects a project that has a group, we emit as expected, but then the project full path changes to a project which does not have a group. We don't ever clear these old cluster agents we just pulled, and so they're included in the emit results. So this was partially related to not just the fact that we had two steps, but for us to do two steps, we also had to keep track of some state. Or this component also had to be stateful, and we weren't clearing up all the states. So it's like, this is a bit risky, and the fix to use just Apollo query is very trivial to implement. So then I left that suggestion as a patch. And Enrique was already feeling a little iffy about this approach. So I was like, oh yeah, let's do it. And thankfully that all worked out. And so the result is the result looks like the result looks like this. We have just one smart query. We don't have any state, but we have a method now which will fetch cluster agents based on the group path. If there is no group, we just immediately return empty, or if we do have it. So that this is just one function that gets triggered reactively, which will always behave the same. Of we get our response, we might need to make a second response, but then we'll emit the result. And this way we also don't have to manage the state, which was, I think, causing issues. So I wanted to share that bit of the code review because for two reasons. One was it kind of started off just asking a question because I kind of had a funny feeling about it, and sounds like the author did too. And then as both of us caught random issues with it, it's like, okay, yeah, let's do the other thing. And thankfully the other thing was um, straightforward. So you can just call Apollo query directly instead of having to do a whole reactive smart query. And this kind of just works like a fetch. So yeah, that was it.
Cool.
Yeah. So yeah, thanks for letting me share that. Did anyone have any other kind of interesting things to share, or we out of ideas?
Not today. Sorry.
All right, that's good. Well, let me see. Let me see if we have some things that we can code review together. I seem to have gotten pinged on a couple of code reviews. Let's check it out. You said you didn't have a code review?
No, I don't have any.
Okay. Okay. I might do this one. Yeah.
One question here, like, I saw at the bottom of this, it says, like if this is the first time it's been reviewed, then we should run the pipelines. That makes sense because this looks like a contributor, an external contributor.
Oh, here?
I've been getting that message. No, on the GitLab bot. Oh, sorry, I might have confused it with another one. Let me find an example.
Oh, are you saying here?
Let me just come back. Yeah, this one. Yeah. I've been seeing this come up recently. I don't think I saw it before. Has something changed? Something new? And
So
like,
this
would it
is
be?
yeah, so this shows up, I think, the first time an MR receives an approval. So to optimize our pipelines, we only run a subset of the jobs when a MR is not approved yet. But once it receives any approval, it then runs more of the full pipeline. So
Right.
this way we can prevent some.
Is this different recently? Or
I don't think it's been. I think it's been around for a little while. Um, yeah, I think it's been around for a while. But we also have the same bot that leaves this message will also start a pipe.
right.
But maybe it doesn't start the pipeline on the community contributions. So yeah, these predictive jobs run on unapproved MRs. But then we just run the full jobs when the MR is approved. I think that's what's going on.
Okay, sweet.
Yeah. Okay. Let's check this out. I'm gonna set a timer. I think we can do it in 15 minutes, but I'm gonna set the timer for 10 minutes. But then it might take longer. That's fine too. So this is related to this issue, which I have some history with because I created it. But this input, let me see if I can find let's see if I can find this original MR, which was providing this input. Yeah. So where you can put your entry point here to the right. that usually is like a command line string. And we were doing a split on spaces. But in the wild, this string can actually, items in the string can actually contain spaces themselves. So it felt like we kind of need to do a split on something else. Wasn't entirely sure what. So I had a crazy random idea of like we could do something where we're actually just doing like somehow auto-populating multiple items. But I don't think UX likes that kind of thing. Which I understand. Okay, so here it seems like we're updating how we want to separate the entry point thing. So let's check out this video, see what's going on. All right, entering a job. Okay, using a comma. Okay, cool. That was just meant to be using a comma instead. So that's kind of good with me. But already I can sense the like separators are hard. And what if you have it like, what if a user is creating this entry point thing, which is supposed to be like a command line argument. And so actually, I don't want to enter another line, but maybe I want to pass a string that actually has a comma to it. I see regularly, like anytime you're using a separator, it gets tough because you're gonna run into situations where you accidentally separated something that was meant to be one input. So I'm kind of thinking maybe we need a way to like escape the separator, but okay. So right now I have thoughts on, are we still solving the right problem? So I have some high level thoughts of this, and I'll leave a comment about it. But first, let's check out this code. So let me go to GitLab land. The string split is when the form is submitted, Marco. Yeah. And then like it's an assistant for writing pipeline jobs is the context. All right. Let me see where I'm at. I've got master loaded. I've got some other things here, which I don't need. Okay. So I curled the merge quest diff, applied it, so I can check it out here. All right, here we go.
How did you do that so quickly? Sorry.
Yep. So instead of I'm in a habit of doing this. Instead of reading the diff here, I usually like to read it locally, where I'll also have it running. And to read it locally, what I do is I'll have master checked out, but I curl the diff of the MR and then apply the changes. So that way I just see all in staged. I can treat this like my diff tree.
Cool.
Marco asked about letting the user decide the delimiter character. I think that's interesting. Yeah, I think that's interesting. I think you might then have to like, oh yeah, I don't know. That's a good idea. Okay. So it looks like this is just changing some typos. That's fine. Job image entry point, join with commas. Yes. So let's see what's happening here. So previously we had this flexed and yeah. Is this inner part all this still the same? For me to tell that the inner part is the same, one thing that I'll do is actually re-add my div to double check what's actually changed here. Okay. Yes. So previously we had it flex. These two things were side by side, but now we have it a little differently than that. Yes. Or it's a whole text area. Okay. And then, yeah, we'll, whenever it's changed, yeah, here's the other thing that's happening too with this, and let me know what you think. So you see the value for the text area is the value for the text area is, what's the word I'm thinking? Sorry. We are joining and splitting this thing so much. Uh let's just see how much. No, this is a join. All right. In fact, we can even do it this way. This would be funny. Let's do it. Why don't we like plus plus? What's wrong with plus plus? All right. Let's see if we can get to this thing. So we set as its value this computed. And anytime it's input, we update this thing and we do the split. So it's like, man, we're joining and splitting this thing all the time. I kind of wonder if maybe we need to be joining and splitting this when we actually submit the action. Yeah. All right, here we go. Let's try it out. So let me see if I can find where to do this. Visit any CI editor page. All right, that's the thing. Let's go to code sandbox example React. CI editor page. Okay. Great. Job assistant. Test. Echo test. Image. Those seem different. Job setup item. Uh-oh. Ah, no, okay. Now I know we gotta wrap things up. Job setup item is not doing so well. Why is job setup item? This is a different problem. I'm going to just ask a comment about this. Okay. So we're here. Great image name. Boo. Okay. So every single time I type, we are joining and splitting this thing. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Which isn't great. So let me see what actually uses this thing. Oh, job image item. Is that this thing? This one was on geoform combo box. Setup item is the one that was potentially. All right. Let me see what actually uses image item. Okay. That's coming from here. And then we call this update job thing. Okay. So we could update this with this key value and set, okay, this value here for the object, which is this dot job. Okay, my big question is when we hit add, that would be a great time to do the splitting of the thing. So where is the add button? Yes, yes, yes. Add CI config. Yes, 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 yes. Generate YAML string. That's JSON parse. Oh, this is to duplicate the job object. Okay. Remove unnecessary keys. Yes. Let's see if we can actually recommend doing that over there. If job dot image entry point equals entry point dot split. Oh, all right. But I just made a mistake because I have this checked out. I would like to make a patch from this. But for me to do that, I need to actually stage these things. Image job dot image dot entry point equals job dot image dot entry point dot split. Yes. So then going back to image item, this can just be job dot image dot entry point. Yeah.
How often are you like actually trying to find a solution like this and work it through? Or how often are you just sort of sitting back like,
I would
have you thought
say,
about this?
yeah, I would say I try to. Like, that's why I have a timer set because I'll try to, because
Okay,
this
right.
just helps so much in the long run of the MR communication and thinking of MR cycles of like trying to communicate code is definitely one of my main goals. So that we're,
And you have those timers set just for yourself?
yeah, because I have a level of time blindness where I won't realize I spent like 2 hours on something.
Yeah.
All right. Here we go.
So at the 15 minutes, you're like, okay, I'm done. I need to
Yeah. Uh-oh.
finish this up.
Look, look at this. That's not right. Why did this happen? Are we like initializing entry point to be something? Um, all right. Anyways, so now that it ran into something, I'm gonna say I'm just gonna leave a question about it. And Yeah. All right, I'm just going to leave a question about it with some code of. Here we go. Ba-da-ba-da-ba. Right. So we end up splitting and joining this on every keystroke, which on every looks like. All right. So it looks like we end up splitting and joining this on every keystroke. Since none of this is actually added until the user hits add, could we defer splitting this until then? Maybe this should be a part of the job object, that happens in string. All right. So I tried this out locally. Forgot something like this. What do you think? All right. So that was my concern. The other concern being related to user can still have commas here. So let me undo my changes. I just accidentally added my changes. That was an accident. So let me reset this. Let me pull the diff again. Uh-oh. Did I do the wrong one? I did the wrong one. Wait, I didn't just leave a comment on the wrong one, did I? Did I do it right? Do I have a comment here? No, this is merged too. Did I leave? Oh, okay. Ah, I got so confused. All right. All right, here we go. So I'm still concerned about separators here. Right. Still concerned about using separators here with no way to escape them. So I'm just gonna say I'm not gonna go to the solution yet. I'm still concerned about using separators here. Similar to space, what if a user needs to legitimately include a string in their entry point parameters? Something like web thing. Oh yeah, this is I need to leave a comment about that. Okay. All right, this is the last one for sure. Image my foo thing. And I have it do, I don't know, something like bin bash foo hosts, but then the hosts need to be something like local host 127.0.1 and then I don't know, GitLab.com. So if I hit add here, Yeah. Oh, I missed what that would like. If the user needs to legitimately include, imagine if a command took a comma separated argument like we might be even better with splitting spaces. What do you think? Does that sound like a good comment?
Makes sense to me. One question I have, like with your timer going off again, and you're trying to finish up as soon as possible at this point, but you haven't read the rest of the MR. Are you just going to send these comments, or will you have a quick look through the
I will
rest
do a
and see
quick
if
through other things, especially since and that's a good question, especially since I'm one of my comments, I can anticipate it potentially resolving to where this all looks different. I may not be super inclined to take a look at the specs, but I may look at the specs to make sure, like, are we doing some sort of wildly off pattern that we need to fix? However, I have actually got to look at all of it because these other ones are incredibly small. And so like here, the test I saw was really small in passing. So it was like, it was really just that one component too. But yeah, there was often times where the timer's going off and I spend all my time on one part of the MR. So usually if I'm leaving comments where I'm not sure if the MR is going to look the same afterwards, I'll go ahead and submit that review and I'll say, hey, I didn't really take a look at the specs because I think let's resolve this thing first. And I've done that before.
Yep, that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, the other I wanted to leave this, but then I wanted to also leave to I think it's non-blocking. Is this related to this MR or something else? Noticing locally a lot of view errors at the console. Is this the image I had? Yeah. Okie dokie. Great. And then I realized I haven't left the praise thing, but I'm glad that thanks for fixing these typos. All right, let's submit the review. Okie. Thanks for working on this. Left you some comments for your consideration. I think we might still run into some of the same issues since we're still using a separate. Back to you. Okay. That was a review. And it took 25 minutes. Okay. So I guess this is like bronze in the time trial. kind of thing. We'll leave an idea here. This is I'm gonna credit Marco. I don't think I'll have it here. There he is. We actually paired on this review, and Marco had the idea of essentially of what if the user could decide the limiter character. Yeah. This might provide an escape hatch for users that need that edge case. Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, this is fun. And I love it when I get to get my work done on these calls. So
Yeah, it
this
was
is
interesting to see you go through it.
all
Thanks.
profit for me. So yeah. Thanks, James. Thanks, Marco, for hopping on. Is there anything else, or are we at we're at the end of the road?
All good for me.
All right. Well, cool. All right. Well, you all have a good one. I'll catch you all later. Bye.
Thanks. See ya.